Hi, I'm Adrienne from Adriene's Couch, and today I'm going to be demonstrating for you a method for achieving the I-cord bind off for the Haruni Shawl by Emily Ross. There are two options for this shawl to end. You can either use a crochet bind off or an I-cord bind off. Now the method that I've developed for the I-cord bind off does use a crochet hook, but it is not the crochet bind off I'll be showing you today, just in case that confuses a few people. Now the picture of the shawl shows at the very bottom of it a series of loops that connect to the mesh that you've created towards the end of the chart, at the end of the second chart. And those loops can be achieved by either creating crochet chains, as in the crochet bind off, or by creating an I-cord, which is a series of stitches that create a little cord that attach to the mesh that you've created before the last row. So I'm going to show you how to achieve this I-cord bind off with a couple of needles and a crochet hook. So here's my work in progress, and you can see that I've knitted towards the bottom of the shawl, and I'm now creating these little cords that act as loops and kind of create the little loops at the bottom. And when you do the I-cord bind off, the cords are thicker than a lot of your work. Some people don't like that, and if you don't want them to be this thick, then I suggest you use a crochet bind off. But I like them, and I also had a lot of yarn left over, so I thought I may as well use it and use it up and try to make a nice pretty edge. Now I'm not actually going to demonstrate using this piece here because you can see the stitches are really tiny and the yarn is really thin, and I just want to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. But I just wanted to show you it, and I wanted to show you that I'm using a crochet hook that's slightly smaller than my needle. This is a 3.25 millimeter needle, and this is a 3.00 millimeter crochet hook. And that's just because at least when I crochet, I find that my loops are a little bit bigger, and this sort of helps to circumvent getting a whole bunch of messy looking loops. Okay, so what I've done is I've created a sample using thicker yarn and using bigger needles, and so that you'll be able to see a bit better what it is I'm doing. Now what I'm going to do is demonstrate the method that is described in the pattern itself, and then I'm going to show you the way that I'm using a crochet hook to do the same thing. So the first thing in the pattern, what it says to do in the pattern, is to knit the first two stitches together and then knit the second two stitches together, and that's so that you can create two stitches that you'll continue to work with to create your I-cords. Now I'm a continental knitter. I hold my yarn in the left hand. So those of you that knit with your yarn in your right hand will pretty much be able to work this out, except you're going to have to try and learn to use your yarn in your left hand, because when you crochet you have to hold it in your left hand. At least I don't know anybody who crochets who holds it in their right hand. Okay, so the first two stitches to set up are knit two together, and to knit two together, of course, you insert your needle in knitwise between the along the first two stitches, yarn over and knit, and then knit the next two stitches together. And then throughout the rest of this, at least the majority of the I-cord bind off, you're working with two stitches. Okay, now you're going to put those two stitches back onto the left hand needle like that, and you're going to knit them separately. Okay, now the first stitch, I'm going to call this left hand one the first stitch. It has the yarn attached to it, which is unusual. Usually when you're knitting, you want it to be at least generally next to onto your the first stitch towards the point of the needle. But in this case, you're going to be starting like this because you're kind of knitting in a circle, and you're going to create a circle that builds, or a spiral rather, that sort of builds upon itself, that creates a cord. That's how I-cords are usually made. So you'll knit this stitch. Okay, my yarn is splitting a little bit. So there's that stitch knitted, and then the first stitch is going to get knitted again, like that. Then you're going to take those needles and slip them back, those stitches, and slip them back to your left hand needle. 1, 2, and you're going to knit them again. Knit that one, and knit the first one. Okay, And then you're going to put them back onto your left hand needle again and knit them separately again. Now this is, you're supposed to do this 8 times, and after 8 times you get a nice long cord. Okay, there they are again, and put them back onto your left needle. Now there's nothing wrong with this method. A lot of people have found it just fine. I find it awkward, as you can see. I'm kind of struggling with it here, because I think that when I do it, I don't think my cord comes out nice and evenly. I think it kind of comes out kind of lumpy. But one way to make it easier on yourself, if you do want to do it this way, is to use bamboo needles. I don't have bamboo needles that are the right size for my project, and I can't actually buy them in the town that I live in. So that's why I came up with a different method. Okay, so you can see that I'm creating a cord here. That's my I cord. And then I'm going to attach it to my work. Let's say that's 8. I think that is at least 6 anyway. I'm going to attach it to my work, and to attach it to the work, you take the next 3 stitches on your left hand needle, and you're going to knit those 3 together. Anybody who knits a lot of lace knows that knitting a whole bunch of stitches together like this can be a real pain, which is generally why you don't do it with big thick yarn like this, because it's difficult to work your needles through them. Okay, so there they are, knitted together like that. And then now you've got 3 stitches in your right hand needle. You're going to take this second stitch and pass it over your first stitch. Okay, like this. And now you're back to 2 stitches again. So that's the method that's described in the pattern, but I'm going to show you how I'm doing it with a crochet hook. So I'm going to put those 2 back onto the left hand needle, and again I'm going to use I'm going to use a crochet hook that is slightly smaller than the needles that I'm using here. There we go. So these are actually 5.5 millimeter needles, and this crochet hook is 5 millimeters. Okay, so generally you're basically trying to achieve the same thing, except by using a crochet hook, and this is how you start. So you're going to again knit this stitch and then knit this stitch, but you're going to use your crochet hook to do so. And to do that, you're going to insert your crochet hook into this right hand stitch purlwise. So for those of you that crochet, that's just kind of normal wise. And take it off the hook, or take it off the needle, and then you're going to yarn over and pull it through that first stitch. So it just basically knits it for you. And then you're going to take the next stitch. I like to kind of insert them while they're still on the needle, just so I retain the tension of that stitch through like that. Yarn over, pull through. Then, instead of putting both stitches back onto the left hand needle, I'm just going to put this first stitch back on there, just so it has a place to sit and so it doesn't fall apart. And it also again helps me to retain the tension of that stitch. Then I'll knit the second time. So yarn over, knit through like that, and then insert purlwise. I've made it too tight. No, it's okay. There we go. Like this. Yarn over, pull through, pull it off the needle, and then put that first stitch back on. And again, yarn over, pull through, insert purlwise, yarn over, pull through. One thing to keep in mind is that it's really easy for these loops to get long and messy, so it's important that when you get them on, put especially this first stitch here, when you put it back onto your left hand needle, give your yarn just a tiny bit of a tug just to keep it from getting too loose. Yarn over, pull through, insert purlwise, yarn over, pull through. And you're going to build your I cord just the same. You can see that you're actually achieving exactly the same thing here as you did with the knitted I-cord over here. And then once you've built up your 8 stitches, you can join it on to your work. And I'll show you how to do that in a second once I get through making this part. So yarn over, pull through, purlwise, insert, yarn over, pull through. Put that first stitch back on and just keep going. It's actually kind of funny demonstrating this because I'm holding my crochet hook in completely a different way than I normally do, but I think when you're working with a camera like this, you have to kind of do things a little bit differently so that people can see what you're doing. Okay, so now I've built up my I-cord. This is about 8 stitches. I haven't really been keeping track, but you can see I've made a nice little cord here, and I'm going to join it onto my work. And remember, the last time we did it back here, we knitted 3 together. And the crochet hook's really good for knitting multiple stitches together because it has a hook on it. Ta-da! And this hook will help you to pull your yarn all the way through all those stitches. Okay, so I'm going to insert my crochet hook purlwise through those 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then yarn over like this. If it helps to hold your work with your thumb and your middle finger or whatever finger you've got available, and pull through those 3 stitches. Okay, now you've got your 3 stitches here, so you're going to take your crochet hook and pull this first stitch through the second stitch, and that's the equivalent of passing this stitch over that stitch. Okay, there. So that's the way I've been doing it, and it might, I don't know, maybe it doesn't seem as quick as doing it the other way, but I can tell you that when working with the thinner yarn, I was really finding it frustrating because, again, I was using aluminum needles, and they were falling off, and I was dealing with the yarn splitting all the time, and it just seemed to be taking a really long time. And once you get going on this, and I don't want to go too quickly because I don't want you to miss what I'm doing here, once you really get going on this, you end up really motoring through it. And in fact, I think the first evening I was working on it with the knitted version, or the knitted method, it took me 2 hours to get through an inch of work, which was really, really frustrating. And I just couldn't imagine finishing the rest of the project in that manner. So once I switched to this method, I've actually made it almost halfway in one evening, halfway across the shawl in one evening. And when I say one evening, I mean like an hour or an hour or 2. So I think it's worth it. I find it easy to do, and I find it an easier way to keep your tension in your I-cord. And especially because the yarn, again, is so much thinner, and your needles are so much thinner in this work in the Haruni Shawl. And if you've ever looked up other ways of doing I-cords, some of you may be already familiar with doing a crocheted I-cord. You could probably use this method doing that too. Usually an I-cord consists of 3 or more stitches, and you could just place whatever stitches you're not working on onto a knitting needle like this, and that way you don't lose tension of them and they don't fall apart on you. Okay. So again, going to the next 3 stitches, insert my crochet hook purlwise through those 3. Come on, there we go. Yarn over, and then pull your hook through those 3 stitches. Come on, cord, get out of the way. There. Like that. And then pull this loop through the second loop. No yarn over, okay? Just pull it through. There. And that's how you get that little I-cord bind off. Okay, and that's it.